Hey everyone, it's Natalie Bencavanga, and welcome to Facts Over Fear. I was on a little bit of a summer break the past week, so I'm really energized and excited to be back with all of you. Now, I wanted to kick some things off uh, in news that warms my cold, dead heart. It seems as though reality TV star Spencer Pratt has appeared to have fallen short in his bid to become mayor of Los Angeles. And while there are a lot of factors that obviously go into any election, one thing really did stand out. His vocal support for aggressive ICE enforcement and the Trump administration's immigration agenda didn't exactly resonate in a city where many residents have spent months protesting raids, detention policies, and the expansion of ICE in their communities. And that brings us to the focus of today's show. So, what does immigration enforcement actually look like once you move beyond the political talking points? So, as we know, most Americans are hearing about ICE through these headlines, right? And of course, the political fights that ensue. But behind those headlines is a much more nefarious system and infrastructure that most people are not seeing. That includes the detention centers, these private prison contracts, surveillance systems, data sharing networks, and technologies that are quietly collecting information on millions of citizens and people who live here every single day. Today's guest is making it his job, literally, to document that world. Journalist Ben Camacho has been looking into the systems powering modern immigration enforcement and surveillance in California and beyond. So we're going to discuss some of his original reporting on CoreCivic and a controversial ICE detention facility in California City, where questions are now emerging around private prison contracts, local government, and the future of detention centers here in America. But then we're going to turn to another story that should concern everyone, regardless of where you live or where you fall politically: the growing use of flock license plate reader technology. You guys, while I was on vacation in South Carolina, I couldn't help it. Once a journalist, always a journalist. There happened to be a new camera that was put up the last day I was there on the beach. I asked around about it. I asked a couple of the lifeguards. They didn't know anything. They just said that the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office had put it up. I posted about it. It currently has over 188,000 views on that post. People are pissed off about surveying children and people bathing in their bathing suits on the beach. Who's looking at this footage? How is it being used and stored? These are just some of the questions. So these conversations, no matter where you live, are impacting you. And don't you have a right to know where your tax dollars are going? Who's profiting from all of this? Ben, thank you so much for joining me for Facts Over Fear. And I'm sorry, as I was saying your last name, I didn't ask you beforehand how you pronounce it. So could you pronounce it for everyone in case I butchered it?
You said it just right. It's Camacho.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Before we start digging into all of this, I just want everyone to know, as you're joining, feel free to put your comments and questions in the chat. I'll try to get to them. But can you share a little bit, Ben, about why these topics in particular were of interest to you in the work that you're doing in California and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think my work really there's a very obvious through line when somebody looks at the entire body of work that I do. And I think really it centers around state violence and the systems and apparatus that powers state violence and its impacts on communities here in Southern California. I have a working class background, I'm first generation Mexican American, and over the year, as I got older and started paying attention to the world more, I really started to understand that police are the agents of the state, and they have a job to do. And I'm not going to say that they're here for public safety or anything like that, but they take orders from, it's a whole hierarchy system, right? And the apparatus, and what I mean by that is like all of the tools and systems and collaborations, partnerships that exist for all of the law enforcement agencies to essentially complete whatever task they're trying to do. And I've seen that range over the years and essentially get bigger and more pervasive and more invasive, really. And we can absolutely get more into that. But that's kind of like the high level of like why I'm doing the work that I do. It's because I've seen the police state expand um, really a lot over the past, especially 5, 6 years, ever since 2020. Definitely a lot to unpack there, but that's probably why I do take on this work. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When we think of how we're viewing ICE or immigration, I think it begins and ends with people what they're seeing on their phones, right? But you're
Mhm.
looking at this in a much deeper context, and you're really reframing this conversation because of that entire infrastructure that's sort of hiding behind the headlines. What is the biggest misconception that people are making about how this immigration enforcement actually works? Because I can't tell you how many people get in my DMs and say, "Well, they're all criminals, they're all illegals, they deserve to be in these detention centers." And of course, we can talk about the philosophical nuances of who deserves what kind of punishment, but to me, it underscores the issue that people don't understand even what these detention centers were supposed to be for, and that these aren't housing supposed quote unquote criminals. These are just people who may or may not have the proper paperwork. And so, can you talk a little bit in your line of work what you're seeing
Mhm.
as a big misconception that underlines this problem?
Yeah, so I think, especially early on, maybe May, April last year, right before the raids really started in Los Angeles, I was doing some reporting. I was doing some courthouse watching at the time. I was working freelance on a piece for a local press out here, and what I was understanding through speaking with various other court watchers or experts or immigration attorneys who had been going to immigration courthouses long before any, Trump took power, or
Sure.
even long before Trump 1.0. Right? This
Hmm.
is an immigration system that has long existed,
That's right.
and has been perpetuated by both parties. Right? Um, and what I started to understand is that this time around, they started to really use immigration and deportation and detention as a way to punish people, um, to penalize people who are doing so. It's like crime, right? We
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
hear the narrative, like you mentioned, where they're going after criminals. They're going after the worst of the worst. And, data shows from last year that like the majority of people who were taken, at least from the LA area, and I'm sure from the other places that were hit heavily by ICE, don't have criminal records and much less have serious criminal records. The majority of the people were picked up due to racial profiling, right?
Mm.
And so what I'm trying to get at is that they're taking people and putting people into private prisons, into various jails and detention centers all around the country under the guise of immigration enforcement,
Right.
and saying that they're there because they are criminals, when immigration itself and the immigration system is not even part of our criminal justice system in the United States of America. It is
Mm.
wholly an administrative system. And so the broad stroke that we're seeing now is that Trump 2.0 is using the immigration system to criminalize and go after people that they deem improper for being inside the United States. It's being used as a criminal under like a criminal arm, and that's just completely like reframing what the system is itself or what it's supposed to.
I think what creeps me out about it the most, and so many things concern me about these systems, these jails, these private prisons, is the fact that they're saying, "Oh, well, you need to self-deport," and
Mm.
people are asking to self-deport, and they're not being allowed to leave. And I don't think people understand what is going on here from a money perspective. That these private prisons, to your point, they make more money as every bed is filled for longer the bed is filled. So it is in their interest, monetarily speaking, to keep these places packed with people. And because of that, we're seeing widespread disease and viruses spreading through these spaces. We're seeing hunger strikes breaking out. There's one happening right now here in my home state of Pennsylvania at Moshannon, which is the largest detention facility in the Northeast. When we're looking at California City and the ICE detention center there, what did your reporting uncover? And for people that may not know exactly where it is in the state, can you share a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So California City is a rural city uh, or town. It's a very small compared to LA or San Francisco, and it's about 2 hours north of Los Angeles in the Mojave Desert. And you really, to go out there from LA, it's going to take you all day to get there, and then do what you got to do, and then get back to LA. It's not a just a morning type of thing. And so, I bring up that because it's important to remember that people who end up in the California ICE prison are typically not taken from California City. So they're taken from cities like Los Angeles or the surrounding areas, and then taken to this rural city, and then put inside of this facility. And so this facility itself, it's a former state prison ran by Core Civic, which is one of the largest private prison operators and owners in the United States. And actually, between Core Civic and Geo Group, which is the other private prison contractor, detention facility contractor, they've hit like record-breaking profits from the Trump administration's deportation agenda. That just in last year, right? We're still getting the numbers for this year, but just from 2025, there's just record number profits, right? And so, to your point of like, they're filling up these places and at the same time getting paid vast amounts of money. Yeah, I'm talking multiple billions of dollars, right? And so,
And that's our money.
this is all taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, this is just to make that all very clear, everybody. This is public taxpayer money that is being funneled to these private prisons that are continuing to grow and expand. Okay, just to clarify.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. It is important to understand that is what we're seeing, the expansion of detention and the profits is all like really it comes from our pockets at the end of the day. And so, this prison itself, like I said, it was formerly a state prison, but then a couple of years back in 2024, it was shuttered out and shut down essentially. And so, come around April of last year, Core Civic was essentially tapped by DHS, by the federal government, via what's called a. Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to say it because it's like I don't remember the full title.
That's okay.
It's a crazy government term. I think there's like 7 words in it, but essentially, it's a fast tracked notice that allows a contractor to circumvent typical like bidding processes. It's essentially the government.
Wow.
Yeah, the Trump administration literally just went to Core Civic and said, "Hey, we want to use your prison for ICE, and you're going to do it, and you don't have to do any of the typical bidding. There's not going to be a competitive bid for other contractors to try and win this. We choose you."
Woo!
And this is linked in my reporting, and I'm happy to link to folks and all that. But we had been digging into this facility for some time, and we started receiving records from the city of California City, which is where, like I said, where the prison itself is located. And we filed what people know as a Public Records Act request or an Open Records request or a FOIA. And after some legal pressure, we were able to get the city to disclose some stuff, and we're still actually receiving a lot of it. But to answer your question, this prison reopened in August, September of last year, when right after the race in the summer of LA, and I started putting people there. Very quietly too. I think community members that I've spoken to, there was no announcement by the city. There was no like city notice that said, "Hey, brace yourself. We're going to be doing this here." I think community members just saw vans one day going like in that direction, and then through that and kind of putting pieces together, that's how they found out. And so that's how this whole thing kind of sprung up in California City. Um, it's also important to note that very soon into people being held at California City ICE prison, um, there were claims of not enough access to medical care or inadequate medical care, um, improper like food conditions, like
Yeah.
rotten worms, things like that. And I believe also the water, there's not enough access to clean water, clean drinking water. And so,
This is
uh,
insane. Like to me, when you say those things, those are crimes against humanity. I mean, even if you are the worst of the worst criminal, quote unquote, you still deserve adequate nutrition, medical care, and water.
mhm.
We've really twisted this whole narrative to who deserves what. And the bare minimum becomes more and more bare, Ben, just to
And
add to that.
no, yeah, and to add to that,
Hmm.
I think to go back to the one of the first things that I said, where these aren't criminals; these are
Right,
people who like don't have the correct documentation that an administrative system requires them to have.
right.
Um, it's even more cruel when you think like, oh, well, okay, they're not criminals, and they just don't have the right. Some of them just don't have the right papers, and so
Well, and it's
it's
not just people that are undocumented. I mean, we've
right.
seen stories of journalists being thrown in these places for 24 to 48 hours. I mean, there was just
Mhm.
there was just a video of a journalist that popped up on my feed that said he was just released, and he kept saying, I'm a journalist, and they were like, too bad. So I wanted to bring that up
Sure.
because I think we're also expanding the notion of who is ending up in these spaces. And to Susan Ray, she left a comment, who do they plan to put in there once there are no immigrants? Us, right? And so I think what scares me about this further, Ben, to your point, is that not only the callousness and the cruelty of the treatments, but the fact that now, the United States government has made it very clear that they're starting to compile lists of people they don't like. And a lot of those lists include left-wing creators and journalists. And
Mhm.
so it only makes you wonder, where could these things lead, because this private prison system depends on warm bodies and beds. And so at some point, they are going to probably run out of illegals, quote unquote, to put in these beds. And then what? And so to your point, I think the work that you're doing on California City is that much more important because there is so little transparency coming out of these spaces.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there's several things there that I want to talk about. Transparency out of these spaces. I think that's one of the biggest ones for sure. These detention facilities, these prisons are essentially a black box, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are ran by private companies who are not subject to the same types of disclosures that a state or a city, municipality, whatever, are subject to. You can't submit a FOIA to these corporations, and they have seemingly endless amount of lawyers to protect them, right? And so uh, to get a PR statement, to get in touch with
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, just their spokesperson, by all means, journalists should try and get in touch with them. That's
Yeah.
due diligence, right? But at the end of the day, that's a communications person who's going to give you a statement that was approved to go out, right? For example, when we were reporting on the California City story, I reached out to DHS for comment,
Mm-hmm.
specifically about the conditions that we had been hearing were going on inside the prison. And the only response that I got from DHS was they started saying, they, they said something like, Rob Bonta, who is the attorney general here in California,
Mm-hmm.
said Rob Bonta should stop slandering ICE and our facilities. here are 10 people who are criminals and are currently inside the facility. And they sent me photos of people, or I mean, there's no real way to confirm this, right? But like,
Right.
they send me photos of like, I think 10 different men and, allegations against them and their names and stuff in this
Sure.
email. And that was their response when I poked them for a response about these claims of,
Ben,
yeah,
I want to interrupt you because I want to
sure.
ask
No
you a
worries.
question. No, because you're triggering so many things in my brain because you're saying so many interesting things. The first thing is due process, right? So when someone's accused of a crime in the normal system, right? They have a trial date set, they have representation, they're proven, quote unquote, you know, guilty or not guilty. Now, of course, we know that system is incredibly flawed as well. But they still have that due process. They have that, there's things that have to be shown in order to hold someone for
Hmm.
something. In
Hmm.
these situations, it seems like that's been taken out of the equation, that they can just hold these people indefinitely and say they're accused of whatever, to your point. But how are we getting in there to prove whether or not XYZ actually is being held because of that? Because these aren't technically facilities that are supposed to be housing criminals. These are
Hmm.
supposed to be centers because of immigration issues. So
Yeah.
I guess my wires are getting crossed on where due process comes into play, because that doesn't seem to be a component in this, which is very scary, because I made a note while you were talking. How are they able to circumvent all of this while also taking public money? I guess is what's scaring me here.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. That's a great question.
It
you know,
almost seems
I
you have that. It's just like, guys, this is a little concerning.
it's yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that me and my co-reporter Jay Roll San Jose really were talking about as we were reporting on this piece,
Mhm.
where it was that just the fact that the federal administration tapped this corporation and said, "We choose you." And then this corporation went forward full steam ahead,
Mhm.
failed to get the proper permits to open up its prison, yet opened up its prison
Woo!
and put people there. And then community members organized and told the city, hey, city, enforce your laws because you have a business that's operating without a business license, which is illegal by your
Wow.
municipal law. City throws its hands up. We get a public records request back with a letter with a letter from Core Civics General Counsel that was sent to the city of California City that said, "Hey, um, we know that this is not verbatim at all, but they were saying, hey, we disagree that we need to get a permit, and if you get sued for us opening up, we're gonna defend you." And so
Mm.
that is just ignoring or bypassing every single red tape or barrier that is there to have checks and balances. So when you have a corporation, a corporate partner, a private partner like that, the state, the government is going to follow in step, and that's why we're seeing the erosion of due process. That's why we're seeing this opaqueness behind who is taking like the specific situations that people are inside for. We don't know if everybody in there actually has an immigration case. I know there's like this thing called a fast track, or sorry, expedited removal,
Mhm.
that is happening a lot in courts, and that's what the admin is using to get people to banish people from the United States of America.
If you're just joining us, I'm Natalie Bencavanga. I'm here with Ben Camacho. He is an award-winning journalist. And if you want to support our work, you can go up here to subscribe to both of our Substacks. And if you really want to support our work, you can throw us a few dollars as well. We know things are tight, but if you're able to, even better. Ben, I wanted to shift gears a little bit because there's a
Sure.
lot of interconnectedness in all of these
Yes.
issues around surveillance, as well as ICE detention, as well as the AI data centers. Like, all of this kind of works in tandem. You've also been reporting on Flock and the Flock cameras, and what you're seeing, that this also goes beyond immigration. Can you explain for people that may not know much about this technology, what is Flock? What data is it collecting? And who has access to it? And why are people so concerned about it? Let's just talk broad strokes first.
Yeah. So Flock is a private company that leases out cameras to cities and police agencies across the country. They've grown exponentially in the past couple few years, and now we've got tens of thousands. And I fact check on me. This might be more than 100,000 cameras
Mhm.
throughout the United States. And what these cameras do, they're not just passively recording. They detect license plate readers that
Mhm.
power them, or sorry, that tell the camera to turn on and start filming whenever a car passes by. It also detects people. It detects certain objects. They're powered by AI, and what it does when it turns on is that it logs whatever's going on in front of it. It's and this is kind of a big issue where people think that they only log license plates. License plate numbers. That's not true at all. They log the entire scene. So even if you're walking on the sidewalk and a car goes by you and the flock camera's looking, you're going to show up in that footage, right? And so, and it's doing that millions of times every month, just in one area, and in around the country, we're talking about billions of scans, and actually more than billions. Like it's really an insane amount of data that is being collected. Um, and put into Flux database, where police are able to essentially search through and find when you, who were driving out getting groceries one Sunday afternoon, passed by maybe five different flock cameras. Maybe one's a couple blocks from your house, maybe one's across the street from your Trader Joe's, wherever you're
Mm.
going, one's at the gym. And some people might, and that's what it creates on a mass scale. The issue is that when you have this in aggregate, when you've got billions and billions and, so much data on everybody who's driving around, it's actually not an anonymous picture anymore. You can actually track people's lives, their whole lives. They know when you shop, or they know when you run to the grocery store. They know when you go work out and you're not working. They know when you're going to be home. And that's how this database is being used. That's the broad strokes. There's a lot deeper, like it goes a lot deeper, but that's what broadly the Flop system is doing. Yeah.
So I just wanted to take a moment here just to let people know, in on top of everything that you've shared, the flock cameras are actually, there's a lot of states that are pushing back and a lot of cities that are pushing back. And dozens of United States cities, according to the American Civil Liberties Union, have been shutting down or suspending their flock cameras locally. These cancellations are stemming from intense public pushback and privacy concerns. Also, police officers have been recorded now using them to stalk ex-girlfriends or women. So once again, the benefits of them haven't proven to outweigh the risks to public safety, oddly enough, or privacy concerns. I also say this because sometimes when I'm doing these shows, it can feel a little like the world is ending. This is all so hopeless.
Uh,
But I promise you, it is not hopeless because of incredible journalists like Ben who are out here, boots on the ground, reporting on these things, showing the underbelly to these issues. And because of people like you who are saying enough is enough, and we demand transparency from our government institutions, and we demand privacy. And there's a balance here between public safety and privacy. So I wanted to interject that in case anyone was feeling a little on edge. Okay, continue on, Ben. So let's talk about this in the context of your own reporting and work.
yeah, really well said. I love everything you just said. And I kind of want to put something in there at the end too
Sure.
that I think just kind of underscores everything you just said. And it is tied to my reporting. So, uh, the city of Santa Ana started using the Flock system last year. Flock alongside the Motorola system, which is a little bit different, but broadly does the same thing. There's also not much transparency around Motorola. So I started requesting records from the city of Santa Ana on this, and there's this thing called the hot list, which is when a car goes by a flock camera and the car is tied to some sort of investigation, quote unquote
Mhm.
investigation. It pings, it sets off a ping in the system, and it
Mm.
like essentially is easily found by the police agency who's looking for that car. When I got the data for how many hot list flags happened within the span of just like I think it was 1 day or a week.
Mm.
A week. It was a week. Um, there was around, I think there was over 1 million scans of cars, and less than 1% of those scans was related to a hot list flag. And those hot lists, it doesn't even mean like that's a criminal. It means that that's somebody who is tied to an investigation or they're looking for that car. And so to think that automated license plate readers are improving public safety, I think whoever really believes that is delusional because you don't set the house on fire when there's a mouse in it, right?
Thank you.
You
Mm.
don't set the house on fire when there's roaches in it. I'll leave that there. And so, to your question, my reporting in Santa Ana, there's been a lot, and actually working on some right now. And there's a lot of data that I've been able to obtain over the past several months. I think what is public, at least, and what I can get into, is that the city of Santa Ana, like I said, got into these contracts, and the police department is having trouble being transparent about their use of the flock system. It was through one of my attorneys, Weston Rowland, who essentially we forced the city to provide transparency um, about the systems. And what I mean by that is one of the big things that I wanted to do early on was to find out where they install these cameras, right? That's kind of just like a basic like thing,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like so people can know, oh, if I go here, I'm gonna be logged in the flock system. And we asked for that. And the city was like, we're not gonna give that to you because that would defeat the purpose of the flock system. And I
So
want to
so they want to have a secret police, basically. I mean, that's a secret
that's
virtual police. That's BS. It's just like, what? I'm sorry. I just had a visceral real time reaction, but that is just wild.
yeah, I mean
Continue on. I'm sorry.
they were cosplaying as the Santa Ana Police
Wow.
Department was cosplaying as a secret police, because and something really important that's really silly here about this whole thing is that these cameras aren't hidden away. They're not tucked away in a
Right.
bunker. They don't got this invisible cloak technology on them or anything like that. These are things that are just in plain view. And the Santa Ana Police Department refused to tell us at first where these things were because of this reasoning that it would defeat the purpose. And I'm not going to get into like how
Sure.
silly that is, but we essentially force them to reveal the locations of these cameras through back and forth with letters and things like that. The city now has a Flock transparency portal on Flock's website that has very limited data on like how they're using it, where these cameras are. But this portal appeared in the course of us sending them letters and making these demands and through the Public Records Act.
I mean, it sounds
And
like you guys put the screws to them and they kind of had to give in a little bit. I mean, I think you're being very humble, but that's what it sounds like to me that you were a part of them giving you something, which is
oh,
pretty cool.
absolutely,
That's
yeah,
pretty
no,
cool.
it's
Good
great.
for you. Look
it
at this, you guys. We got a hero right in front of us. I mean, that's amazing.
it it doesn't go far enough at all.
It doesn't, but it's a
It,
start. Like, and I think
right.
this is what's so important is we have to remember that we do have power here. And this is not a done deal. We don't have to live in this dystopian hellscape. These
Mhm.
are choices being made every single day. And if people are loud enough, if there's journalists like you and like myself willing to call people on the carpet, things can change. And I just wanted to add that in as we're wrapping up, because I know I've kept you and I really appreciate you,
It's
but we've
okay.
gotten so many comments. People are very into your work and what you're doing. And I'm going to put a link to his Substack, of course, when I post this later, you guys, if you want to check out all of the great things that Ben's working on. I want to end, though, Ben, dream with me. I want to dream together, because I'm finding, as I interview people, as I do this work myself, it is important that we look beyond this moment to what things could be. Because if we don't, we can't ever get there. So when you think of the work that you're doing in the space, where do you want to see this country progress to in your dream space in the next few years beyond where we are right now? What do you want to see happen because of your reporting?
Um, I think I want people to. I see the use in my work. Or sorry, let me just start that over. I want my work to be the baseline for which people, at least in my local communities, because I'm a local reporter, the baseline for people to um, engage with the local government and the local police department. I want people to have information that is not washed through a PR communications team. And so having this baseline of fact allows people to become empowered and make informed decisions and demand better from officials, right? And get better results from government. Um, I think where I want this country to go, I want everybody to have a roof over their house, their head. I want people to be able to afford to put food on their plate. And I don't want corporations or government or police agencies to stifle the self determination of communities of color, working class communities across the country. Those are big things, and they're gonna take decades, generations to achieve. But um, it starts with knowing what's true. And I think that's why journalism is so important. And that's why the government that's in power and other presidents too have attacked the media, and independent journalism is so important now more than ever, because we are giving people that baseline to which they know what's true.
Amen. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that literally is the basis for facts over fear, right? It's just, there's so much fear mongering and misinformation. And I just want to do my tiny part to help bring facts back to the forefront in a way that we can call people in, no matter their political affiliation or how they identify in the world. Everyone is entitled to security, but they're also entitled to self-determination. They're also entitled to pursue their happiness and to live in harmony with themselves and the planet. So, Ben Camacho, award-winning journalist, amazing guy all around. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your incredible work. I would love to have you on more regularly and talk through these issues, because I know we just scratched the surface on so many
Yes.
of them, but I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to get to know you. We've had so many people say wonderful things about you and your work. M. Hope just said that they're grateful for you as well.
Thank you,
I am
man.
grateful for Ben too. So if
Thank you,
people
man.
want to learn more, where can they go?
Yeah, so I'm also on Substack. I run Inadvertent. You can find it at inadvertent.news. I'm super easy to find on socials. Just Ben Kamach zero. The O is a zero. IGX Blue Sky. And I'm also part of the Southlander. That's LA's first and only worker-led investigative newsroom. And yeah, I think that's it.
That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. Thank you so much to everyone who left an incredible amount of comments and questions. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all of them, but I appreciate all of you for tuning in. And of course, I will be putting in the actual post some links, and I will double check on how many flock cameras there actually are currently, and make
Yes.
sure to give you that correct update as well. And until next time, as always, everyone, please take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks, Ben. Bye,
Thank you so
everybody.
much, Andrew.